What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper Saturday video. Today, with exciting news, I can announce that Snapbolt is back in Pauper. He dropped a couple of new videos regarding a new pet deck of his that is Boros Ephemerate. If you know Snapbolt, Max is an amazing Pauper player. He's played a ton of decks, even coined some. Blue-White Ephemerate was his pet deck for quite a while and put up serious numbers, so you have to take these type of decks seriously. Since then, Hyzen has also jumped on the bandwagon and put up some impressive results with this deck. So, today we're going to jump into a deck tech of Snapbolt's Red-White Ephemerate. We are going to be looking at Hyzen's variation, and we're going to be playing a couple of games, so let's jump in. Alright guys, now at the heart of this deck, it's important to understand that this is a Cleansing Wildfire deck. So, what does Cleansing Wildfire do? Well, Cleansing Wildfire is a 2-mana sorcery that allows you to destroy target land, then its controller may search their library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then you get to draw a card. Now, why is this good for us? Well, we combine it with bridges. If you're familiar with the Pauper format, the bridges with Cleansing Wildfire is a known and go-to synergy that has been around since the bridges and Cleansing Wildfire were printed. But this deck is going to utilize that ramp engine as its main source of tempo. You'll look at the deck list here. It is fairly well curved, with a reasonable amount of 4 and 5 drops, but let's start from the lands. We're going to start with 2 Boros Garrisons. This is a bounce land. Obviously, this is a bit of a nombo with the Cleansing Wildfires. This is not its intended target. This land does let you keep a lot more hands, which is absolutely great because this deck does not mulligan very well, and by that I mean it does not play that well from behind because it doesn't have a ton of catch-up mechanics. It does have several value engines that you'll see during the games, but overall the deck does rely on 1-for-1 card draw quite often, and if it gets behind in cards against a deck that can accumulate bigger value or bigger payoffs, it often can find itself in a lot of trouble. To that, we're adding 4 mountains, 6 plains. This is a fairly normal split because we are compensating our mountains with 4 red bridges. Now, this could be the red-green bridge. It doesn't need to be the red-blue bridge. I am utilizing the red-blue bridge to kind of disguise the deck a little bit and make people play around things that maybe Jeskai Ephemerate would be playing, things like some counter magic, maybe fire and ice, things like that. I like the mind games of having this land included in the deck, and I've had a ton of success with it. This is, as I mentioned before, Hyzen's list, and I've been playing this several weeks now and have had tons and tons of great results with it. To that, we're adding 4 Rustvale Bridge. That is the primary bridge of this deck. If we had 4 more red-white bridges, we would be playing 4 more red-white bridges. The 1-drops, we have 3 of our primary value engine, Ephemerate. Ephemerate says exile target creature you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with Rebound. You'll notice we have Ardent Elementalist. This allows for you to loop Ephemerates infinitely while accruing some ETB value. We have 2 Faithless Lootings. This is a flex slot of the deck, but Faithless Looting has been an absolute all-star. It really does do a lot to smooth out our draws when we have a little bit of a rocky start. It also allows us to pitch Prismatic Strands, as well as a few other options for some amount of value when you combine it with this Late for Dinner. Now, this is a singleton Late for Dinner. It's more for redundancy than it is for like graveyard value, but it does have some added benefit with the discard from Faithless Looting to have that available to us. Next, we pair those with 3 Lightning Bolts. Not 4, it is a little bit of a strange split, but our removal package for this deck is going to be 3 Lightning Bolts, 3 Journey to Nowheres. Ultimately, it's a good trade-off. Lightning Bolt is a great answer to a turn 1 Swift Spear, but Journey is a much easier option to something like a Gurmag Angler, so good trade, 50-50 here. Next up, we have Dawnbringer Cleric. This card is an absolute powerhouse. It's a 1/3 for 2. When it enters play, you choose one. You can either gain 2 life, destroy an enchantment, or exile a card from a graveyard. Combined with Ephemerate, this card has enormous value. It single-handedly makes the deck much, much, much better in a lot of matchups. And you'll see that because we have 2 additional ones coming in out of the sideboard. Oftentimes you're going to be utilizing the Destroy Enchantment clause, but exiling an instant speed with an Ephemerate is also very, very powerful, and the gain 2 life just has default utility since it is a very aggro format right now. Next up, we have a full 4 Spirited Companions. Now, this differs from Snapbolt's original list because Snapbolt is running, I believe, 3 Spirited Companions and 4 Inspiring Overseers with a small change to his removal suite. We're running the 4 Spirited Companions here. I think it's more important to have a turn 2 drop to smooth out your draws than it is to have more turn 3 flying options more of the time. And in my experience, Inspiring Overseer, while it is a reasonable card, has really just been Companions 5 and 6, not necessarily an Angel in its own right. Next up, we have our 4 Cleansing Wildfires. This really is the card that makes the deck tick. Without this, the deck would be hugely too slow most of the time, but because we have Cleansing Wildfire, you can have some absolutely ridiculous curves. I know myself playing in a local just last week, I went turn 1 bridge, turn 2 mountain cleansing wildfire on my bridge, get a plains, turn 3 Palace Sentinel into turn 4 Goliath Paladin against familiars, and I actually outpaced them. They were not able to contest either of the Monarch or the Initiative, and they got absolutely steamrolled. So absolutely great card and enables the deck as a whole, in my opinion. Next up, we have another flex slot. This has 2 Smash Dust. Now, in Snapbolt's list, he's running, I believe, an Electrickery and a Braid in this. Ultimately, I think that while Electrickery is slightly better at destroying or at 1 damage to all creatures than Smash Dust, and a Braid is slightly better at destroying target artifact than Smash Dust. Smash Dust overall is going to be more consistent and does give the deck a little bit of play against walls, which in my experience has been an absolutely unwinnable matchup. So playing 2 Smash Dust here in the main board really does make a lot of sense when you look at what the deck is weakest to. Next up, we have our 2 Inspiring Overseers. As I mentioned before, this is just Companions 5 and 6. But gaining 1 life, as well as being a flyer, is nothing to shake a stick at. It does block very well. It also does have... is nothing to shake a stick at. It does block fairly well, and it does gain life while it draws you cards, so there's a little bit of stabilizing power built into this card, but really it's just there as a cantrip. Next up, 4 Prismatic Strands. Man, this card is an absolute powerhouse in this format. It does a ton for this deck. It does so much heavy lifting. This card single-handedly turns several matchups in your favor. Boggles being the best matchup, in my opinion, for this deck, along with things like Mono White Heroic or Mono White Infect or something along those lines. The deck absolutely loops Prismatic Strands and Stonehorn Dignitaries fairly regularly, and that gives you a lot of options and a lot of locks against several decks in this format, including Burn. Really, really like Prismatic Strands as a 4 of here, and it is incredibly important, and you'll see that in the games to come after this. Next up is our 1 of Late for Dinner. As I hinted at previously, this is more of a redundancy factor. Being able to late to dinner an Ardent Elementalist that's been put into the graveyard allows you to then get Ephemerate back and start the loop. But realistically, you're more often going to be late for dinnering something for value. Occasionally, I've been in a position to late for dinner an Ardent Elementalist and get late for dinner back, and then get another Ardent Elementalist, which gets late for dinner back. And you're able to just constantly have pressure. Most of the time, Ardent Elementalist is getting Ephemerate back, and then Ephemerate can get late for dinner back, but you do have those sort of loop options available to give you some level of redundancy. Next up is 2 Palace Sentinels. This is how you introduce the Monarch. This is just Goliath's Paladin 5 and 6, albeit much, much worse Goliath's Paladins 5 and 6. We just don't have a ton of options. This would almost certainly be like the red bard that gives the initiative if we had it. But we don't, so Palace Sentinels it is. Next up, we have 2 of Stonehorn Dignitaries. This, as well as Prismatic Strands, gives you a huge amount of play in several of the matchups in this format. This card largely locks out things like Terror, largely locks out things like Goblins, Slivers, several of the other mid-range and aggro decks, not to mention Boggles. And then we have the 2 of Ardent Elementalist. Now, for those of you who don't know, when Ardent Elementalist enters the battlefield, you can get an instant or sorcery back from your graveyard to your hand. Now, most of the time, you're going to be getting Ephemerate. So how does the loop actually work? Well, Ephemerate targets Ardent Elementalist, which flickers Ardent Elementalist and lets you get a spell back from the graveyard. Now, Ephemerate is exiled because of rebound, so you can't get Ephemerate back right away, but you can get another spell. Sometimes you're going to be targeting things like Stonehorn Dignitary or Spirited Companion or Goliath Paladin to take the initiative, retake the Monarch, draw a card, various ETB effects. But the next time on your upkeep, when you cast it from exile with rebound, what happens is you target the Ardent Elementalist, the Ephemerate will resolve going to the graveyard, and then the Elementalist will come back into play, trigger, and you're able to get the Ephemerate back from your graveyard. So you only need 1 of each to start the loop. That's very, very important for gameplay here. Next up is 4 Goliath Paladin. This is just the end game potential of the deck. The initiative really is incredibly powerful, and being able to use Ephemerate to steal the initiative or the Monarch back if your opponent does manage to take it is very, very powerful. It also gives you some lines where you can end of turn Ephemerate, then rebound Ephemerate to jump 2 floors, 3 on your upkeep trigger for the initiative. So it gets you to throne very quickly, or it gets you to trap out of nowhere. So you do have a little bit of steal power there. Next up, we have our sideboard. So our sideboard looks like this. We have 2 Arishan Clerics. This is just Dawnbringer Cleric, 5 and 6. You're starting to see a pattern with a lot of redundancy built in. But it does gain a little bit of extra life at the cost of not being so modal, so it is good against red. 3 life is a lot, especially if you can ephemerate it. 9 life is a lot better than 6 life if you were to ephemerate a Dawnbringer in that matchup instead. But we still have the extra 2 Dawnbringers to bring in as well. So lots of life gain coming in out of the sideboard with the 2 Overseers, as well as a potential 4 Dawnbringer Clerics and 2 Arishan Clerics, plus the Prismatic Strands, plus the Stonehorn Dignitary. You can see how the deck has game against so many aggressive decks. Next up, we have 4 Dust to Dust. Affinity is, after all, still just insane. And 4 Dust to Dust is kind of what you have to deal with that. With Ardent Elementalist, you do have some curves where you can turn 3 Dust, turn 4 Ardent Elementalist, turn 5 Dust again, and that gives you a lot of time, but you still do have to find some pressure to apply in order to win the game. Oh, apologies if you can hear the fireworks outside. It is Friday on a holiday weekend, so neighbors are going crazy. Next up, we have 4 Red Elemental Blast. This is largely to do with Fae or some of the more controlling matchups or combo matchups like Familiars, which, like Walls, is a very difficult matchup, but not as impossible as Walls. This also does counter almost every instance of the Walls combo, so you're able to at least partially have some game against those in game 2. Next up is 2 Breath Weapons. This is here for several decks. It's good against Gardens, the mono black deck. It's good against Fairies. This is good against Koldatha. I mean, it really is good against so much right now. We don't want it in the main board because it does wipe a lot of our own board, specifically our draw engines on the Dogs and the Angels. But when it's good, and we have them available to bring in. And then lastly, to round out the 15 here, we have a Singleton Gorilla Shaman, just Mad Monkey. And this is really just here for whatever matchups you need it for. Obviously, it's targeted affinity, but things like red-black discard, or pretty much anything running like pretty much anything running like Ichor Wellspring and Deadly Dispute and generating a bunch of like blood or treasure tokens. You can bring this in against those. And pretty much anytime you see your opponent running artifact lands, it's going to be worth it to bring this into. So that is the deck, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into game number 1 and see how the deck functions. So happy to have Snapbolt back. Welcome back, man. And this deck is absolute gas, so can't wait to keep playing it and see future iterations. But we're going to jump into some games and show you guys what this deck can do. All right, guys. Game number 1 against Atogni Brazil. Let's go ahead and kick things off. We run the die roll, so we're going to go ahead and start. All right, bridge into Garrison isn't really what we want to do. Palace Sentinels, but we do have a journey. Faithless into the Boros Garrison allows us to not discard any cards, hopefully find a Wildfire for the follow-up. This hand has potential, but I think we can do better. I know I said the deck doesn't mulligan very well, and it doesn't, but we're going to go ahead and try for a better 6 here. All right, this is a better 6, so let's go ahead and I think we're going to put back a Sentinels here. And hope that we hit a 3rd land for this Overseer. And let's just pass it up. Okay, opponent on a red deck of some kind. Oh, top deck of Companion is not bad here, but fortunately a little bit of a slow start. That's okay. We're going to double bridge here. We're going to go ahead and F6. What's opponent on? This should show us what opponent is playing. Burning Tree. Okay, so he's on one of the mono red variants. Yep, Burning Tree into double pulse. Hits 2 mountains. Love to see that. Okay. Well, I think we just have to go for Spirited Companion here. This is going to show opponent what we're doing, but I don't think we have a choice. We needed to hit a land there. We did not. That's unfortunate, but not the worst. Let's go ahead and pass the turn back. Hopefully we hit our 3rd land on the next draw. Otherwise, we're going to be in real trouble. And this is part of what I was talking about on how the deck doesn't mulligan super well. Unfortunately, when you don't run out your draw spells or your cleansing wildfires, the deck really does struggle a little bit. I really would have liked to keep a Garrison in this hand, but still would be very slow against something like mono red. Opponent's gonna Reckless Impulse again. Yep, okay, so he's on the aggressive variant of 8 Pulse. Bushwhacker, Kuldotha Rebirth. Okay. Opponent cards looking pretty good here. Let's go ahead and opponent swinging in. Unfortunately, we just have to take this. Yep. Come on, land. Okay, Journey does help us quite a bit here. It's going to allow us to slow him down, and then we have a Smash Dust to clean up the board after he Bushwhackers, so I think we have to Journey the Monastery Swiftspear here. So we'll go ahead and Journey the Swiftspear. We will pass the turn. Want to hold up the ability to block here because opponent has the ability to go like land, artifact, Kuldotha, Bushwhacker. Yep, just like this. And he hit a land. So it's even better than it could have been. Okay, called out the Rebirth. And a kicked whacker, yep. Alright, well, we're just gonna block here, I think. Yep, taking 8. Jesus. Alright, we did hit a land, which helps us quite a bit. Maybe we can get opponent to commit into the next Koldatha Rebirth here. We're gonna go ahead and pass the turn. Try to get opponent to play into this Prismatic Strands, I think. Goes immediately into... I might be dead. Okay, there's 1 bolt. Am I dead? He could very well just have all the bolts. Wow, he did. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think I could have done anything about that with how this ended up. So let's just go to board. Against this deck, we don't need things to go late. So we're gonna go ahead and go. We're gonna take out all the late game, I think. Journeys aren't particularly good against him either. I think we're gonna leave 2 paladins in instead of Palace Sentinels here. We still want to leave the Ephemerate loop in for infinite Prismatic Strands and infinite Stonehorns. That's just going to win us more games than it's going to lose us. Bringing in both Russian Clerics, both Dawnbringers, and both Breath Weapons. We're taking out Late for Dinner, a Journey, 2 Palace Sentinels, 2 Goliath Paladins. So we're taking out a lot of the late game value for a lot of the early game stabilizing power. I think this is correct, so let's go ahead and run it. We're going to be on the play here. And hopefully we're able to keep a 7. This is a better hand. We have at least 1 draw. We have a Journey for early Swift Spear. Decide to skip through my main phase 1 there and terrorize myself. A Relic. Okay. That's not as bad as it could be. Let's go ahead and Cleansing Wildfire our land. We're going to get a Plains here. And we drew a 2nd Journey. Okay. Sure. Friends Resolve, sure. Great Furnace and a Bushwhacker, okay. We're definitely not going to let opponent get much value here. We're going to Cleansing Wildfire again. We're going to get a Mountain. Then we're going to play this. We're going to and pass it back to opponent. Drawn a lot of land here. Drawn a lot of land. That's okay, but we do need to start drawing some of our more 2-drop oriented spells here shortly. Yep, okay, so here comes 8 damage. Don't like to see it, especially with no sweeper in hand after burning pretty much everything on draw. Yep. Not happy about it, but it is what it is. Taking 8. Not in love with that prospect with opponent with 5 cards in hand. A second Prismatic Strands. Okay, I mean, this does give us some outs to, like, Bolt, because opponent did stack all the bolts last time, which is a thing. We do need to deal with this relic at some point, but I think we just have to sacrifice the Prismatic Strands to the relic gods this turn. Reckless Impulse, Blast, Chain Lightning. Okay. Let's just fire it off now. Not super happy that he gets to eat this, but... Okay, he let it go through, though. He didn't Galv Blast at the end. Which is interesting. Okay, okay. Hitting a Stonehorn here is big. So... played a land already. Pass it back to the opponent. With an Ephemerate open, so opponent can't really go for the kill here. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, so he does not have 3 artifacts, so he can't go for it in response. So I think this is where we just Ephemerate it. He's got to spend 2 spells on it if he wants to kill it. Okay. Okay. Sure. Ah, okay. Sure. He wants me to exile the Stonehorn instead of the Ephemerate. I'm okay with that. Wow, drawing a lot of land here. Where are my 2-drops? Opponent with 4 cards in hand, nothing revealed. So... I mean, this doesn't feel good, but we can go ahead and hit this Bushwhacker. And let's play one of these. And we'll pass back to the opponent. Man, just drawing a lot of land here. Have not missed a land drop. It is now turn 6. He's going to Bushwhacker again. Oof. Man, really showing the power of red here. That relic is doing a lot of value. But that is what it is. Red is going to be a very powerful card, so relic is doing a lot of work here. And in comes the Bushwhacker. Yep, that's fine. Let's go ahead and strands again. Red. It resolves. Still need to draw action here. This is not... This turtle land draw is not going to do it here. He's going to go for the exile here. As he should. We'll exile this Ephemerate. Not super happy about that. Really just not having success with finding 2-drops. It's really just not a thing that's happening. Synthesizer shows a mountain. Chromatic Star, sure. Goes in for combat. I'm going to take 3 here and go to 9. Really need to hit a white creature here. Okay, Dawnbringer's a start. We did in fact hit a white creature. Super helpful. Gain 2 life. Pass the turn back to the opponent. Galv Blast. Okay. He let it go to the graveyard, so at least my... I think we're going to burn this bolt here. Not super happy about it, but I want to save this Prismatic Strands in the graveyard. Exile the bolt. Now when he untaps, we can exile Dawnbringer Cleric, and then we can keep the Prismatic Strands for 1 more turn. Ah, okay, never mind. He just pulls the trigger on the exile. Wow, okay, so it didn't get that much value, surprisingly. It did get 2 Prismatic Strands, which is absolutely huge. Yeah, I really like the Emissary version of this deck. I think it's very good. Wow, and of course he draws the Swift Spear after I burn the bolt. Cool. Alright, so what can I draw here to get me out of this? It would have to be an absolutely insane draw chain. It goes for Synthesizer, yep. Might be dead here. could absolutely be dead here. Going to 8. Opponent is swinging for 5. He just needs Fire Blast here. Fire Blast is lethal. No Fire Blast. Man, really just clunky draw here. Wow. Okay. GG's. GG's to the opponent. Unfortunate, we just drew so much land there. In hindsight, sideboarding, taking out the 4 and 5 value drops probably isn't correct. Let's see, what can I do instead? Can we just take out the journeys? If we take out the journeys, 2 journeys, 2 smash to dusts. And the late to dinner. For the extra Domriers, the Irrations, and the Fire Breaths. Yeah, maybe that's correct. That's okay. We learn as we go. Sometimes it's a loss. The red deck is very, very powerful. Let's go ahead and run it back for game number 2. All right, game number 2 against Kvara Ninja 1. We are going to be on the draw. And let's see what we can do. Hopefully a slightly better performance, because this deck is absolutely insane. Really did not show it in that last match, though. Hit the opponent with the old GLHF. And let's see what we got. 5 lands. Single draw spell. I just don't think I can keep this. Like, I would like to. What am I supposed to do here? I've got Spirited Companion, Smash Dust, 5 lands. I have 2 playable cards with a redraw on the draw. So I have 2 extra cards. Not sure. I know the deck can do better, but because it doesn't mulligan that well, and I've seen some... It can't be right to keep this. Let's mulligan. And that's exactly what I was afraid of, an unkeepable 6, so we go straight to 5. Oh, and we have another 5 land hand. We should have just kept the first one. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, fortunately, we get to throw 2 of these lands back, so we'll just throw... Oh, no. Cancel. We'll just throw these 2 back. Keep the Cleansing Wildfire. It's the only way we're going to win this game. But at least we know 2 lands are on bottom, so we're not going to draw more. I'm kidding. We're going to shuffle them immediately. Jungle Hollow. Okay. So this immediately says to me Black Gardens. But it could be something a little more wacky. Just don't draw land. Of course. Oh boy, why do I say anything? Okay. What does Jungle Hollow say? Because Mono Black Gardens, true to its name, is pretty much mono black, so I don't see a huge reason to run Jungle Hollow. Just Colony Gardens. But maybe I'm incorrect. I don't know. Opponent kept one land? Jumps straight to end turn. What is opponent doing? I don't know what is going on here. Top deck a land. Kidding, it was a journey. Opponent's on one land, but I'm pretty sure we should just accelerate. I would like to blow up his land, though. Opponent taking sweet, sweet time here. Yes, we want to use its ability. And we draw another land. Man, brutal. And let's just pass back. If opponent misses this land drop too, I feel like we should have... Okay, that's fine. They may have just skipped, like, misclicked and auto-passed. Satyr Wayfinder. Okay. What do we got here? Oop, sorry. Withering Necromass. 3 land. Interesting. He knows Withering Necromass is not just anything in the graveyard, right? It's specific to creature spells. So opponent has just a forest. Okay, we hit a companion. That's good. Into another companion, which is also good. Okay, so companion aggro has begun. Opponent playing some sort of self-mill deck? Black-green? I mean, I like the idea. It's kind of cool. I think we did. Yep, playing a dredge deck. Interesting. Another cleansing wildfire. Draw a second journey. Play another companion. Now, I considered journeying the Stinkweed Imp here and play around things like Deadly Dispute, but I think we just need to draw here, because we really have not seen a ton of action. Prismatic Strands is good. We can pass it back to the opponent. And we're starting to build on something here, because now we have a ton of land in play. Opponent on 3 land. We're on 6 land. Opponent's still on 3 land. So for reference, I didn't trade with the Satyr Wayfinder earlier to avoid things like unearth value. But now, oh, he's not attacking with the other. Okay, so no unearth because he didn't attack with the Wayfinder again. So he's not offering a trade anymore. We're going to take 1. I feel like double journeying these Stinkweed Imps is actually pretty good. Kind of feels like the way to play this. You deny a lot of dredge options. But we hit a Goliath Paladin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Goliath Paladin enters the initiative, gets us a basic. We can play basic, exile 1. Okay, we'll do it that way. And he's going to be incentivized to hold the Stinkweed back to block the Paladin next. We're able to get some chip damage in here. We can't block the Imp anyway, so Paladin's on blocking duty for the Wayfinder if he wants to. Sure. So maybe he does have the Unearth. He left it back for blockers, but... So opponent has 2 options, right? He could either take the initiative, start his own journey, or he could hold back the Stinkweed Imp and try to block when I attack. Blocking definitely feels like the wrong line, but it's an option. Urborg Repossession. Getting back Necromass and Wayfinder. Okay. Seems pretty good. Opponent is tapped out for that, though. With a green open for some reason. Definitely getting the impression that opponent is a newer player to MTGO. Seeing a lot of things that I would have done a couple weeks ago. So, big question. Is he going to attack and start it? Yes. Okay. So he's gonna plink me for 1. He's gonna take the initiative. He's gonna start his own journey. Unfortunately for opponent, we are going to take it back and never give it back. Yep. He gets a forest. Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. We're gonna attack for 4. So you have double snuff out? No? We're gonna go to Forge. And Forge here. That way when he plays Necromass, I can Prismatic Strands and kill it. Alright, now we're in main phase 2. Let's go Overseer. And play a bridge. Pass to the opponent. Alright, we're in a very powerful lead here. Not only do we have the Strands back up, we can block the Stinkweed, so we don't even have to play the Strands. We can hold the Strands. Man, opponent is real deep in the tank or is very distracted because they have been very slow to play. Satyr Wayfinder. Sure. Go ahead with your Wayfinder. Opponent flips. Eerie Soul Tender. Stinkweed and Kitchen Imp. Okay. Sure. Writhing Necromass. You got it. He is gonna attack. Okay. No problem. I would like to trap you. Okay. So now we're in a really strong spot. So I don't even need to Journey Nowhere. I can just attack and Prismatic Strands it. He's just gonna take 5. Okay. 1, 2. Draw. And pass to the opponent. No reason to really do anything like out of order here. Oh, did I play? I don't think I played a land that turn. I don't think it's going to matter, though. We are very ahead. Next turn, we get thrown. Soul Tender. Okay. Glory, Brown Scale, Tortured Existence. Oh, he's a TortEx deck. I didn't even... I mean, I assumed that it was in there, but I hadn't seen it yet. Deck is very good. Opponent's playing very slow, though. Another Writhing Necromass. No problem. Okay. Okay. We go to the throne. Goliath Paladin, Palace Sentinels. Let's go with Goliath Paladin. Get rid of that brown scale. All right, so now we have like 1.5 million options. I think we just attack for 5 here. He just takes 5 again. Yep, okay. Wait, so he's dead to trap. All right. So Ephemerate's gonna trap him out. He's not attacking with his 5/5 Death Touch dudes, and he's not blocking with his 5/5 Death Touch dudes. So I'm not sure exactly what he's trying to do. Okay, so we're gonna dredge. Now we're just waiting on opponent. Yeah, opponent playing very slow, man. Definitely getting the sense they're either a newer player or maybe double queuing. Airborne Repossession for a Kitchen Imp and another Writhing Necromass. I mean, I could stop that, but I don't care. He's not getting TortEx back with his Urborg Repossessions, which seems very strange. I don't care, bro. Your 5/5s don't scare me, my dude. End step. Oops, nope, nope, nope. Oh, I have to do it from exile. Okay, that makes sense. Trap. All right. Play a land. And then we just attack. Just passes through declared blockers again. Okay. I don't know what opponent's doing here, but they're just not blocking anything. Okay. Yeah, they scooped the match. That matchup from my play experience is absolutely abysmal. Not a whole lot they can do about Dawnbringer Cleric. That's kind of a problem for them. Really felt like you guys got shorted on the matches today. We had an absolute non-match against Mono Red where we just drew nothing but land. And then in match 2, we had an actual non-match where we only got one game against kind of a rogue TortEx deck. A little bittersweet, unfortunately, with the showcase matches today. If you guys want to see a full league run of this deck so that you can really kind of see it showcased in its full unbridled power, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Honest opinion of the deck, I think this deck feels like it has game against everything. I think that there is always a play pattern that can lead you to winning the game, except against walls. I think that outside of specifically having an absolute insane curve with red elemental blast backup to stop them from comboing out on you, you cannot win that match. And you have to do it 2 times out of 3, which is really, really difficult. Ultimately, this deck has a little bit of everything. It's definitely a mid-range value pile, but it does so much, and it has so much game against the entire metagame. Prismatic Strand, Stonehorn Dignitary, I mean, these cards are huge problems for a huge majority of what's in the meta. And I highly encourage you guys give this deck a try. Unfortunately, Goliath Paladins are still so expensive on MTGO, and there's not really any replacement options for them. So if you don't have them, apologies, there just really is no budget version of Goliath Paladin for this deck. However, in paper, everything in this deck is remarkably cheap outside of maybe the Dust to Dusts. And even those aren't so bad anymore. So I highly encourage you guys to get this deck in paper, shuffle it up, play with it. It's super, super fun. As usual, guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I really do appreciate you. We are closing in very, very quickly on 600 subs. So shout out to everybody who's been watching and leaving comments and encouraging the channel and helping this project grow. I really do appreciate you guys. And big shout out to Max from Snapbolt Games for coming back, dropping a really, really sweet deck list. And shout out to Heisen for his variation, because it really does click with me. I think that he and I are on the very same page with deck building, and unfortunately not the same page with skills, but we'll get there. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. As usual, goodbye forever, unless I see you next time. Peace out.